Welcome back to the IoT Podcast. I'm your host, Tom White. This is episode 9. Today, we are joined by Marcos Arizti. Marcos is the CEO of StalkIT, based in Spain and also Norway. StalkIT is an innovative IoT tracking solutions business, aiming to digitize the waste, livestock, and asset industries using NB-IoT. Marcos, thank you very much for coming on the show.
My pleasure, Tom. Thank you very much. Looking forward to a good conversation and exciting chat.
Marcos, if you could just explain a little bit about your background and how StalkIT operates within the IoT industries, and just how you really got into this. This would be really useful for us.
Yeah. My background is from the waste and recycling industry. I've been there over 10 years now at the European level in various different companies and various positions. And my experience with StalkIT started late 2018 when I had the opportunity to learn about what the company was trying to achieve. And I quickly understood that this was a real need in the market to close a bridge between the digital and software part that the companies has been investing and the real asset inventory thing was happening on the field, right? So field tools to connect with the office software.
Yeah. Okay.
So and then from there we have been now close to 2 years like battling a little bit, educating the industry, right? It's a lot of unknown, right? No one has been tracking containers up until now, and we came with a solution which was affordable, which was giving a quick return of investment, and was proving that it was scalable as well.
Yeah, fantastic.
And then on the other industry, the livestock industry, that came as an opportunity at the same time, right? Part of the founders are sheep farmers themselves, so free grazing animals is a big thing in Norway. And they were trying to find how they could combine their solution of their units together with the same technology that we have for the waste industry, right? So we kind of tried 2 industries, 1 challenge, right? That's the idea.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I didn't actually realize that some of your founders actually came from the agricultural background. Actually, it's widely spoken about within IoT solutions that the benefit of sensors can have over masses of land and tracking cattle, livestock, and other other animals, etc. It's incredibly poignant, right? Just touching on that, Marcos. In terms of deploying IoT solutions and for your customers, so clearly some people have come from this background. What is it that you're trying to bring your customers specifically with StalkIT and trying to transfer this what you've learned from agricultural into the waste industries?
First, the main thing is the inventory control, right? So for farmers, it's very important to have a stock control, right? In Norway, there's a lot of predators, there's a lot of injuries. The animals goes to the mountains for 3-4 months, right? And usually farmers back in the former days, they were walking themselves, right, for 2 days till they found the animals in the valley or in the checking that, counting that everyone was there, right, and so on. These days, it's just a phone, it's an app, right? And you have full control 24/7 of where are your animals. What we have taken is that and into the waste industry because it's the same, right? How all these recycling companies, one of the biggest asset in their balance sheet is the containers, right? It's a volume business, right? And because it's a volume business, there's a lack of control over the volume, right? I always say that every time I'm meeting a waste management company and I ask how many containers you have, no one knows, right? From the CEO to the operation guy, everyone has ideas, right? Oh, I think I have about 800 or 1,500, but it could be 1,300, could be 1,700, right? So the variations are a lot, right? So first of all, so the concept is that improving by measuring. If you start to measure, you can improve, right? Where to look at. Right? While before all these industries, that's why we call them like non-digital industries, non-digital markets, because they have been doing the same for years after years. The technology was not affordable enough for them to take the step. Now it is, right? Now we are talking about 5 to 10 year battery life. Now we are talking about reliability, robustness, right? And that gives them certain, security enough to say, well, I'm doing the investment because I know that I'm going to get this back in X, Y, and Z years, right?
Yeah, because often that was the limitation in the past was battery life, right, and being able to go round and physically power these devices.
It was three main things, right? It's a high investment, right? So you need to cover because the prices were well over £100 a piece, right? So then you were looking, as soon as you start on volume business, you were going into very large numbers. Then it was the maintenance, right? What you said about the battery life, you need to charge every 6 months or every 8 months, and then it was like no point to go around the skips and trying to find who has less battery and so on. And so all these things was kind of like a blocker, right, for them to move forward.
Yeah. Just touching on that note, actually. So obviously the limitations back then were more centered around battery life, etc. Are there any prominent limitations that you see at the moment as a business with some of your customers and other things that are challenging some customers when implementing solutions, specifically around NB-IoT as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we briefly touched earlier, right, about the coverage, right? So NB-IoT is a new network, it's a new technology that has been now deployed in Europe. Luckily, it started in the Nordics, and Norway was one of the first countries to deploy the network properly in end of 2018, right? So that gave us the possibility to do test fields late that year and early 2019, right? So, yeah, network is something that we are depending on the telcos, but because the telcos are used to, like national infrastructure, they have a mandate, right, to cover the whole country, the same that they do with 4G, right? And they're using the same infrastructure, so it's certain things that tells us that this is a question of time, right? But of course, time is also a weak point for other technologies to rapidly evolve and maybe take over, right? So that's one point, and the other point is that what we call indoor and outdoor, right? Our solutions are pretty much outdoor, right? But you see that more and more people like to have a combination, right? Because the container is under a shed or is in a basement or something, and even though the network is there, right? The GPS satellite need to have a clear sky, right? So our solution, so we're looking at right now is to try to see what could be the next step and maybe try to get triangulation of antennas to find the location instead of depending on GPS satellites connectivity.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, and I guess something that I know a lot of our listeners and viewers are curious to find out from different people that we have on the show is how, particularly this year and the challenges that business has faced around the pandemic, how that's really affected and continuing to affect and shape the future of particular industries within IoT, within tracking itself and monitoring and asset monitoring as such, and within your business in particular. How has it affected things today, and do you see a shift over time that you perhaps hadn't once envisioned this time last year?
Yeah, definitely. That's been unexpected, right? All that had happened since March this year. And since we have these two industries, we have been trying to isolate both of them, right? So the waste industry has suffered big time on the start, right? Especially on customers we were like on the verge to invest or taking the step, right? They have said, well, I have now my business. I need to look at how I'm going to survive, right? And try to secure what I have instead of like looking new investments. And that's just been kind of on the recycling waste part, while the agricultural part has been more like business as usual, as long as there is, because that business is not that much dependent on on the waste that you generate or anything. And actually, people are eating more home. There's more milk to be produced. People are eating more in their country. So we have seen that farmers has been seeing these as not that hard challenge for them, right? Than other industries. So we have seen that the farmers still seeing this tracking as a very good opportunity. So even though we had the pandemic, we have sold more units this year at this stage already, and we still have 6 weeks to go, right, to finish the year than last year, right? So with that said, of course, our targets were much higher in the beginning of the year, but we have been able to kind of maintain the market share, respectively of the COVID-19, right? But we are also seeing that the first impact for the first 2 months was quite heavy, right? And then there's been some inquiries of people seeing that, well, this COVID-19 is preventing us to go to the office. So if I wanna, typically what happened is that you are in the office and you have a warehouse, right? And you look in the window and you see how many skips you have, right? But right now, if you cannot go to the office or in a limited number of people, then having a digital solution like StalkIT possibly gives you the opportunity to coordinate everything from home, right? Because you have everything. You have the containers, you know where they are, you know which types you have, right? So that has been also something that has come, but a bit later, right? When people have said, well, what is this? They have kind of like the first 2-3 months heavy has come. We have got some good deals, some promising deals later in the autumn, right? Of people have seen this as, well, now I need to take the step and invest on a digital solution, right? Because that will pay back, not just for the corona, but for the months, for the years to come.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think it's often interesting how different businesses are affected at this time, but also they're quite robust. And congratulations to you on continuing to go from strength to strength. It's really pleasing to hear when you hear such.
For us, it's been like diversification, right? It was what I think was the key, right? Because if we would have put all the eggs into recycling and waste and everything, we would be in a much harder time right now, right? So sometimes the good thing is that we diversify, but the product, the essence of the product and everything is quite the same, right? We have functionality, we have changed. It's a little bit different, the hardware, but the core part of the unit is the same, right? And that enable us to be agile, right? If the market changes, we can produce more of these, less than that, cover, the team is supporting both markets. So we are kind of like hybrid in that way.
Yeah, fantastic. And just moving forward then, so again, another question about the future, which is quite interesting. So in terms of the world as we see it today, the boundaries between digital and non-digital are blurring quite significantly, whereby lives are being consistently and continually being interacted with technology, with devices that track, monitor everything from health and so on and so forth. Where do you see the future specifically within your expertise and what StalkIT is doing within waste, agricultural tracking? Where is it going? And I guess ultimately, is it going to lead to a more sustainable world, in your opinion?
Definitely. This is it's very, very interesting question because it's kind of like a wide topic, right? You open here, but clearly both industries has been our industries has been for years, right, doing more or less the same business. Like the last 20 years, nothing has changed. You talk to these farmers or waste management companies, and most of them, when you ask them what sort of technologies have implemented and everything, the skips, they look the same. They have the same model. They have invested sometimes in some sort of a stock management system or ordering system, but very basic things, right? So we quickly see that there is a lot of room for improvement, right? And that improvement is connected to technology, right? And particularly to IoT, right? Because IoT is what comes now into this this market is a low margin market, right? These people are sometimes sweating the t-shirt, right, to get the volumes rolling, to get the trucks out there and everything. So it needs to be more efficient, and that's why the technology will help them to optimize routes, will help them to collect what they need to collect, control what they need to control, instead of like purchasing new skips every year, reutilize the ones that they have, right? So all this is what is going to shape that industry quite heavily over the next 5 to 10 years, right? And I'm seeing already big changes, right? And I see that it's going to be the combination between field tools, providing information, so a lot of data, and that data will be handled in the office, right? To take decisions, to predict businesses, revenues, optimize, monitor. All that is going to be quite popular within the next few years, right? And the ones who are neglecting this, because you always have people who's like, nah, just I'm doing business as usual, they're going to be left behind, right? So I keep saying that this is a little bit like the Uber in the recycling business, right? So it has come to stay, right? So it's going to be you either need to jump on the train or otherwise you need to look other business, right? Because it's going to be big changes coming in, and that you see also with the amount of people which are putting efforts into creating new companies, analyzing data, and so on, right? So the potential, and on the agricultural part as well, right? So there's a lot of cost that has been used for X amount of operations, going and checking, especially for free grazing animals, right? That's a particular niche that, right now, being able to control the stock, being able to potentially have a health condition of the animal when it's out there, and all that information will be available, and that will be able to that is connected ultimately with the taste of the meat, with the quality of the meat, with how people are taking care of the animals, right? So you want the animals to live and grow and be in a sustainable world, but also in a healthy environment, right? And all that technology could play a big role in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the main thing, isn't it? Moving forward is the use of data as well, the interpretation of that data, how we can use machine learning as well to really take massive steps forward. And what that may mean, but it's good. It's good to hear that you're doing well as a business, and I think there's a continual push for companies in your space to do what you're doing, and we thank you so much for coming on the show today, Marcos. It's been really insightful, and we wish you well in the future with everything.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to have the opportunity to openly speak about what we have been doing, and it's always a startup is a roller coaster, right, up and down, and the COVID-19 has impacted all of us, and we are lucky that we are still able to be kicking and ready for 2021, which seems to be a very interesting year as well.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, and I can completely appreciate what it's like working in a startup and all the things that you need to do. But I think at times like this, we all need to stick together. And this is one of the aims of the show, right? To provide good content for people who may be spending more time at home than they ever envisioned that they might be doing, and to learn more about what you're doing and what other companies are doing in the space. And it's really good for all involved. So. Thank you once again. It's been a pleasure having you on, Marcos.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. Speak soon.
Cheers.
Cheers.